Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to start shortly because some of our partners and participants are already online. But in the room, we're trying to ensure that we have everything set before we commence. We want to welcome everyone to that. Representatives from various institutions in the state are already seated. They will be introduced properly. This is Alpha Belgore of Afe Babalola University. And some of our guests who are here very early and on time. Let me say that in some few minutes, we will commence this program. We have asked that all representatives, persons who have been invited, take their seats, and we will take the opening prayer as well as the Abwad anthem before we commence. We'll ask everyone who's been asked to speak today to ensure that they follow the time allotted so that we can have a very swift, concise event. There are more participants who are joining us online than on ground, so it means that there's a large number of people who are waiting to see what we're up to here. I just want to confirm that everything is set, and then we'll commence the program. Seats have been allocated, and we will have the papers presented, some of which will be beamed on the projector screens. In the course of today, we're also going to have breakout sessions on open science advocacy, open science policy, open science practices, and open science infrastructure. I will not go into the entire program now, and I know that the anchor for the day is also waiting in the flanks. I'm only here to set the tone for the day's schedule. In about exactly 5 or 3 minutes? 5. In 5 minutes, we'll commence with the opening prayer. I'll ask Mr. Kolawole to be on standby for the opening prayer, and then for media to stand by for the Abwad anthem. Thank you. We apologize for that technical glitch. Since the Bishop of Abuad Diocese is here, we would ask humbly that Reverend Victor Ario should take the opening prayer for this one-day symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me Reverend Victor Ario, the chaplain of Abuad Chapel.
Let us bow our heads as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, we honor your name this morning. We thank you for the grace to be alive. We thank you for this great symposium. Thank you for the people you have put together to gather us this morning to learn. We thank you for the organizers. We thank you for this university. We appreciate you for the good weather we are enjoying. Father, accept our thanks in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you for everyone that you have brought this morning to learn. Father, accept our thanks in Jesus' mighty name. As we sit to learn from this moment on, Father, teach us from above in the mighty name of Jesus. We understand that we are from different backgrounds. We pray, O Lord, that you will help all our speakers, the lead speaker, the discussants, and everyone that will speak, that you will give them understanding to teach, to speak, and you will help us to understand in the mighty name of Jesus. Lord, I pray that you will take absolute control, that your name alone will be exalted. Father, we remember our dear country. We pray, oh Lord, even this moment, that there shall be turnaround in our country. We pray, oh God, that you will remove all our fears, and there shall be abundance in our country in Jesus' mighty name. We pray again for people you have used to put this meeting together, that your hand will continue to be upon them. And at the end of this meeting, we all want to say thank you. Father, we glorify your holy name. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
Amen. Can we please rise for the Abuad anthem? Media, thank you. Thank you very much. You may be seated. We'll take the librarian's welcome address shortly, but before we do, let me start the introduction of some of the dignitaries, presenters, discussants, and participants, and the anchor for the day will proceed with other introductions that I did not take. Let me first welcome the Vice Chancellor of this great institution, Professor Elizabeth Smaranda Olarinde, who is ably represented by Professor Jide Olubi. Professor Olubi, thank you very much for being at this symposium. Let me also welcome our host for the day, the University Librarian, Afe Babalola University, our own Mrs. Rosalind Subar. Let me say that we have one of our speakers for the day who came in right on time. He came in the Abuad way, because in Abuad, when we say 10, it's 10. Unfortunately, today we could not match his Abuad energy. We welcome you to Afe Babalola University. The Honorable Commissioner for Innovation, Science, and Digital Economy, Ekiti State, Nigeria, Honorable Sheun Fakwade. Thank you. A round of applause for him. I'm sure the commissioner was seated when many people were still strutting or trying to find their way in. Thank you for leading by example and by showing how things are done in the state. I also have dignitaries, representatives from different institutions. The University Librarian of Federal University of Oyo Ekiti, Dr. Isaac Busayo. You are welcome. The University Librarian, Ekiti State University, Dr. Fabomi. I also welcome the University Librarian, Bamidele Olumilua, University of Education, Science and Technology, Ikere Ekiti. Dr. Showemimo, you are welcome back. The Librarian, the Polytechnic, Ado Ekiti, Dr. Ashiro. You are welcome, sir. Thank you very much. So Ekiti State is fully represented. I know that there are some other institutions that are coming up, but definitely if you have mentioned these institutions that I've mentioned and they are seated anywhere in the room, then any decisions on librarianship or open science is one that goes all the way. Shortly after the librarian's welcome address, we're going to be listening to the keynote speaker, and the keynote speaker is going to be joining us virtually, Professor Nero Adetoro. I'm sure that he's already online. Professor Adetoro, please a round of applause for him and welcome. From other parts of the world, we also have, for example, from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in the United States of America, Dr. Jayana Do Amaral, who is joining us virtually. Dr. Jayan, please a round of applause for her. Let's also welcome the University Librarian and Director of TVET at the Amwet International University in Kenya, who is also online, Dr. Penina Yomboa Musangi. A round of applause for Dr. Penina. This program and symposium is in collaboration with the Open Research Funders Group, and one of the very important persons to this team and the Afe Babalola University, who has been also been part of setting this event up, is the Scholarly Communication Librarian of Afe Babalola University, Dou Adegbelero Iware. Where's Mr. Iware? Please a round of applause for him. We'll introduce every other representative of government, institutions, and establishments who are seated, but let me quickly ask that the librarian, because we have taken some time, the librarian should give a welcome address, and afterwards we'll introduce other dignitaries who are here seated. Thank you very much. The librarian, Mrs. Rosalind Subar. Please keep clapping until she gets here. Before she gets here, let me also welcome staff and students of Afe Babalola University who are seated. Please a round of applause for yourselves. Select persons were asked to come here. This is a very special event, and it is just for select numbers. So if you look around and you don't see a crowd, it is because this is a very important symposium and it is just for a select number of people. Please keep clapping. Thank you very much. The librarian, Mrs. Rosalind Subar. You're welcome, ma'am.
Can you put it on for me? Put it back there. Wow. Okay. Wow, today is the day that the Lord has made. Therefore, we shall rejoice and be glad in it. All protocols duly observed, but permit me to specially recognize the founder, our father, Afe Babalola, who has made it possible for us to have a beautiful university of this nature. I also want to appreciate and welcome in absentia our dear mommy, Yeye Are Afe Modupe Babalola, my Vice Chancellor, who is being represented here by the Director of International Linkages, Professor Olubi Jide. We appreciate you. And our very dear Honorable Sheun Fakwade. It is so good to have you around, and I'm especially excited to have seen you again after almost 18 years. It's so good to have you. All the faculty members, my colleagues, the university librarians from all over Ekiti State, the provosts of all colleges, well represented because of the meeting that is ongoing, all other presenters, ladies and gentlemen, my librarians especially. I want to say it gives me a very great pleasure to warmly welcome you to our great university campus, the Afe Babalola University at Ekiti, to consider topics around the important theme of our symposium, open science. As scholars, we recognize the significance of access to quality research knowledge as they serve as our tools of production. My distinguished librarians and colleagues, we are witnesses to the high cost of subscription to databases in foreign currencies, coupled with declining budgetary allocations to libraries around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this has necessitated the open access movement and the development of the concept of open science to enable increase in research output by taking off all obstacles and fostering collaborative researches. It is therefore my earnest belief that the various speakers will do justice to the topics to unearth and broaden our understanding of the concept open science. I sincerely hope that we will emerge from this symposium with practical and actionable points to promote and adopt open science values and the tenets of our researches, professional endeavors, and adoption by the management of academic institutions. It will be very good to have them embrace this concept of open science. Ladies and gentlemen, on this note, I heartily welcome you all to Afe Babalola University at Ekiti. Enjoy the discussions as they go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we please put our hands together for her one more time? Now it's time to listen to the welcome address from our Vice Chancellor, who is ably represented by Professor Olujide Olubeye. Please, I welcome Professor Olujide Olubeye, ably representing the Vice Chancellor, Professor Samaranda Olarinde.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Are we cold? Good morning, everyone. This morning, I have the singular honor, the privilege to represent the Vice Chancellor of this institution in the person of Professor Smaranda Olarinde. She desires so much to be here this morning. In fact, when I was seated here, she still called me that she was planning to come if it's just to show her face. But because of the competing engagements, she's not able to physically be present here. But I have her words here, which I will be delivering. Before I start, I want to congratulate and to thank the librarian of the institution, Mrs. Roslyn Suber. Because of this great gathering, I'm sure we know that it's not easy to bring people together like this. A lot of effort, a lot of preparation must have gone into place for this day to be. So thank you very much and well done, ma'am. This is speech and open declaration of the one-day symposium on open science for Ekiti higher educational institutions. Distinguished scholars, librarians, and students, both on-site and virtual, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our world-class university, the best university in Nigeria, and top 400 in the world, according to the Times Higher Education Impact Ranking for 2 consecutive years, 2022 and 2023. It is important to let you know that we didn't just get to the top by wishful thinking, but by the special grace of God and the values that our founder and father, Are Emmanuel Afe Babalola, SAN, holds dear. The values of industry, determination, service, character, and faith that nothing is impossible, and the dedication of staff to the vision of Upward, which continues to steer us to greater impact and achievements in the academia and society at large. It is the same value that paved the way for this kind of gathering today, whereby through the effort of one of our leading librarians, this very competitive global award was attracted to benefit the lot of many within the Ekiti higher educational systems, to help our institutions key into important global issue of open science through advocacy, community building, and training across the state. Open science, which is a set of ideals and movements that seek to make scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone, to increase scientific collaborations and sharing of information for the benefit of science and society, holds great promise for the research community and the entire human race at large. I'm sure many of us who are researchers will understand the value of having access, timely access to quality information. We have seen situations where some PhD research projects might have been avoided if the researchers had access to timely information. They wouldn't be wasting so much resources reinventing the wheel, what other people had already studied. So the concept of open access is something that we should all joyfully and hopefully embrace. Imagine a world where you don't have to pay scarce foreign exchange to publish or read published research works. Imagine a world where peer review is as open as Facebook comments. Or imagine a world where research data are stored in open repositories, accessible and reusable by anyone from anywhere and at any time. Or imagine a world where members of the public outside of the 4 walls of the academia can interact freely with scientific knowledge to improve their living conditions and communities without the help of a professor. Or a world where textbooks are freely available for download or to read online. These are some of the great benefits of open science that make national governments, research funders, and multinational organizations like UNESCO to lead the movement to make open access open science the default in the way we do, assess, and communicate research. The choice of this symposium's topic, that is, towards understanding the UNESCO recommendation on open science to drive open science adoption in higher educational institutions in Ekiti State, Nigeria. This topic is both apt and timely. I believe it is a clarion call to the government of Nigeria, a member state of UNESCO, and its subnationals and institutions to remember their obligation to the UNESCO and adhere to its recommendation on open science. And we are delighted to have the presence of Ekiti State government here with us today through the Honorable Commissioner for Science, Innovation, and Knowledge Economy in the person of Honorable Sheon Fakwade, whom I trust will take the message back to the state government and beyond in support of the Nigerian research communities and academia towards achieving the open science mandates. As for us in Abroad, while we are open to collaboration and working with you to further imbibe and promote the open science ideals without resting on our oars, we have made significant contributions to this cause over the years. Of note is the support for our faculty members to publish in quality and indexed open access journals. To make myself clearer, we have annually paid several thousands of dollars on article processing charges for our researchers whose papers are accepted in open access journals. We're not talking about $50. We're not talking about $100. We're talking about APC that can be as high as more than $2,000 sometimes, just to publish a single publication. And you both agree with me that ordinary researchers are not likely to be able to afford this sum, if not that this university, through our funder, has made this possible, that when you have worthy manuscripts, when your manuscripts are accepted, the university has, over the years, been paying for us. So can we appreciate the funder once again? In addition to this, we promote open access to research by deploying an institutional repository and mandating our researchers to post their published works there. In another way, coordinated by the Scholarly Communications Librarian, all Abroad institution-based journals are operated on the open access model using open science infrastructures like the Open Journal System, OJS, and the Digital Object Identifier, the DOI, for all published contents. In fact, we have done what no other university in Nigeria has done by establishing the scholarly communication units in the library to lead our digital scholarship initiatives. This unit is to lead our digital scholarship initiatives and participation in open science, and we hope to do more. Therefore, I hope this gathering will stimulate thought-provoking, actionable conversations towards policy creation and adoption of open science practices in our respective institutions. I look forward to these outcomes here in our university and in yours. In closing, I wish to thank you all for listening. To all our visitors, I hope you will find your one-day stay on our most beautiful campus exciting. I hereby declare the event open. Professor Smaranda Olarinde, Vice Chancellor of Abroad. Thank you very much.
No doubt, that's a warm welcome from Professor Samaranda Olarinde. Please, let's put our hands together for Professor Olujide Olubi. It is time to thank you. It is time to listen to the keynote speaker who is joining us virtually. And before introducing him, I want to read his short profile of the keynote speaker, Professor Niro Adetoro. Miro Adetoro is a professor of library and information science and currently the pioneer vice chancellor of Gera University of Medical Sciences, Imokpe, along Ijebu-Ode Ibadan Highway. He was director, academic planning, quality and assurance, Tai Sholari University of Education, Tasword, Nigeria. He was pioneer head, Department of Library and Information Science, Tasword. Professor Adetoro holds a PhD in Library and Information Science from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Professor Adetoro has taught in 3 different universities in Nigeria at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels. He is a chartered librarian and an associate member of Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, CILIP, member National Association of Library and Information Science Educators, and member Association for Information Science and Technology. Professor Adetoro has served as a member of National University Commission, NUC accreditation and research evaluation teams to several Nigerian universities. His research interest includes information technology, use and information used by different categories of information users, including disadvantaged groups, scholarly communication, and psychology of information use. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the keynote speaker with me, Professor Miro Adetoro, who is joining us virtually. Okay, we are trying to connect to with our online participants, and at this point, please, we may have to move to the next thing on our program, which is the lead presentation of the lead paper by our own librarian, Mrs. Subal. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the librarian of Afe Babalola University, Mrs. Subal. Our citation will be read. Please, let's pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Profile of Mrs. Roslyn Isonama Subal, CLN, FSN. Mrs. Roslyn Isonama Subal BSc Sociology and Anthropology, MLS Library and Information Science, MA Peace, Security, and Conflict Studies. As an exemplary career development with a blend of professional competencies in the library and information sciences and peace and conflict studies, she has successfully positioned herself in interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary fashion in the various intersections of scholarship and peace-building initiatives, including administration, institution building, and public project developments, and presentations in exhibitions, gender support for at-risk women, peace education, conflict prevention, resolution and advocacy. She is the founder of a non-governmental organization, Conflict Awareness and Prevention Initiative, CAPI, Center for Peace Education, Ibadan, Nigeria, and USA, and immediate past deputy chairman, African Union Peace and Security Cluster in Nigeria. She is currently the University Librarian, Afe Babalola University, at Ekiti, Nigeria. She doubles as a Chartered Librarian, a member of CILIP UK, an associate member of Online Computer Library Center, OCLC, Dublin, USA, Norway Research and Development, and an associate member of Murchison Center, University of Illinois, USA. She has conducted scholarly library visits to international institutions like University in Germany, Peace Research Institute, Oslo, Norway, United States Institute of Peace, Washington, D.C., and Johns Hopkins University, School of Advanced and International Studies, Washington, D.C. Mrs. Subao served at the Nigeria Library Association, Oyo State Chapter, at different times as Assistant Secretary of the State Chapter, as the founder of the Association of Women Librarians, and as former Chairman, NLA, Oyo State, and Council member between 2010 and 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Mrs. Roslyn Subao. You're welcome, ma'am. Please, my dear Vice Chancellor, perhaps we were waiting for your arrival to continue. Thank you so much. In 10 minutes, at least we should have your attention. Thank you. Sorry, we have a technical itch. I wasn't supposed to come on now, but we'll fix it. So come in, please. Okay. I think it's being projected. Okay. Thank you. I can see that it's being projected here. I'm sorry the platform isn't coming on. I want to welcome and recognize my Vice Chancellor again. Thank you so much for coming. Yes. My presentation is talking about academic libraries and open science. The protocols have been taken, so permit me to quickly go on. I have here the learning objective of the library and open science in one. We are going to talk about the academic library and open science under open science on its own, the concept of open science. We will unravel open science framework, pillars of open science research importance, open science symposium, building capacity around open science, and open science strategies in itself before the conclusion. Academic libraries and open science, what do we mean? From the perspective of the librarian, the academic library is an essential infrastructure to provide the university and its community with a wide range of scholarly materials, teaching, learning, research to meet the institution's mission, the purpose of the university, the institution's curricular and academic tenets. The university library can be described as one of the strong arms of the university, responsible for the functions of acquisition of materials. It goes through the processing, preservation, and dissemination of all information needs of an academic institution. Open science in itself, what do we mean by that term? Open science can be described as the movement to make scientific research and its dissemination available to any member of an inquiring society, from professionals to citizens. Professional in any field can access open science, and therefore, open science can also be said to be the scientific research whose procedures are open and transparent. These articles include publications, data collection, physical samples, and software, as well as its dissemination accessible to all strata of the society, like I said, the professionals and the scientists. The key point here, we see all the open science concepts. We see open notebooks, we see open data, open peer review, open source, scientific, social networks. Everything is open. The key word here in open science is transparent and accessibility. Transparency and accessibility, they are the key words in open science. It is also shared and developed through collaborative networks. Open science concept is shared through collaborative networks. It is not just from one source, they are from different collaborators. This includes practices like publishing, open research, campaigning for open access, encouraging scientists to practice open notebook science, such as openly shared data and code, broader dissemination and engagement in science, and generally making it easy to publish, access and communication scientific knowledge. Once they are accessible, it makes publishing easy. Open science can also be said to have emerged as a paradigm that promotes transparency. It is moving from the old, where everything has to be coded, kept classified. But you see, the umbrella is explaining that everything is open for you to take. It is a paradigm shift from the old, and it emphasizes sharing research outputs. Researchers come back, put everything together, but at the end of the day, somebody somewhere is paying, but it's made open to everybody for use. Data and the methodologies are openly available to accelerate scientific progression. Although it is obvious that the ultimate objective of open science is to increase research outputs by disseminating obstacles and fostering collaborative research, there is no single universal definition of this subject, open science. Now, the concept in itself, as it pertains to research. Open science can be said to be a set of principles and practices that aim to make scientific research from all fields accessible, transparent, and reproducible to everyone for the benefit of scientific and society, for the benefit of sciences and society as a whole. The core features of science, which we all know is empirical. We can also say it is by experimentation. They are replaceable and with systematic procedures. However, the University College London has classified 8 pillars to disseminate open science. The classifications are as follows, but only 4 major ones are being observed in Nigeria and Africa. But with time, every unique individual institution could expand to even increase. It depends on how you want to apply your open science concept. One is FAIR. Research, FAIR is an acronym. I would explain it shortly. Research integrity, next generation, future of scholarly communications, citizen science, education and skills, rewards and initiative. For University College London, it also has European in Open Scholarship Cloud. The first one, pillar, the first pillar is FAIR, which I said, the F stands for findable, A for accessible, I for interpretable, R for reusable. The findable means making research outputs discoverable by the wider academic community and the public. The accessibility here means using unique identifiers, metadata, and a clear use of language and access protocol for ease of adoption. For it to be properly interpreted, applying standards to encode and exchange data and metadata. And the R stands for reusable, enabling the repurposing of research outputs to maximize their research potentials. Above all, it is the services of the library to manage the research data from the stage of archiving to sharing and dissemination of necessary research outputs. The second one, I'll run through them. The second one is research integrity, which is guided strictly by principle. The practice of the researcher to act honestly, reliably, respectfully, and accountable for their actions. That is, to conduct excellent research and reflective of the wider open science agenda. They should strictly be honest, be reliable, and respect the reflection of what open science agenda stands for. The third one, next generation metrics. This seeks to catalyze a shift in culturally thinking around the way in which bibliometrics are utilized in research, particularly when evaluating quality, and go beyond simply, it goes beyond simply citing counts, citation counts, and journal impact. This next generation matrix is appropriate for different sources and describing different things, which can help us gain a broader understanding of the significance and impact of research. Please note here that there are policies guiding the support of appropriate use of metrics in academics. And the fourth one stands for the future of scholarly communication. That is actually the hub of why we are here. This is one of the most prominent pillars of open science, given the intention to shift the current academic publishing model towards fully open access. We are here because we want to sensitize and create awareness for the importance of what scholarly librarianship means, and that is why we have the stakeholders in information and library practice here. And for us to be able to, when we move on to the syndicate groups, we'll be able to capture the whole essence. We fall into different groups and come up with how this will be. So I move on to the fifth one because we are going to settle more on the fourth pillar. The fifth one is citizen science, which simply means movement towards members of the public having a greater role within research and recognizing the invaluable role they play in providing insights researchers may not typically have. They create that insight, provide the enablement for the researchers. Annexing also the advantages of the internet, openly available software packages, and local knowledge. Citizen science brings about change in the way research is conducted, and it is no longer limited to academic researchers. It encourages collaboration from groups across society. And the sixth one, education and skills. That is why we are here as academic, libraries, and information practitioners. This identifies training members of researchers to address the gaps in knowledge and skills around engaging with open science, such as making publications openly accessible. All researchers across board should have access to education and skills programs to support their work. What are the strategies that we need to apply to support our academic work and continued learning across board? Further skill development programs should be opened up to other stakeholders in research, such as professionals, i.e., the librarians, my constituency, and data managers and members of the public, to facilitate the understanding of what this citizen science is all about. And the seventh one, according to the University College London, says that rewards an initiative. This pillar fosters engagement with the principle of open science that requires reward and recognition of the efforts to do so. And that is one of the models, the tenets of Afe Babalola University. Our founder recognizes and gives awards for initiatives in research. The representative of my Vice Chancellor has mentioned that publications are being paid for in millions of dollars, euro, and pounds for publications. This is one of the pillars, strong pillars to encourage open science. The perceived lack of recognition and reward for work undertaken to manage research data and make publications openly accessible discourages researchers from engaging with the principles open science. This pillar addresses challenges and champions encouragement with open science practices. Wow, so tiny. Okay, 7, 8. The 8th one, European Open Science Cloud, seek to create greater enablement for collaboration between researchers across the globe and research domain. By this, scholars are encouraged to make research outputs openly accessible as possible. Instruct on applying the FAIR principle. Remember, the first pillar is a key one to open science. Support researchers in writing data management plans. Engage with researchers through outreach and advocacy initiatives. Okay, open science research importance. With all I have said and the establishment of the pillars, what are the importance of open science? It helps to transform innovation and knowledge, facilitates the reuse of the result of scientific research, articles and data sets to produce new products. Open Science Symposium. Open Science as open access guidance, institutional policies about open science, constitutes a committee metadata schema for researches, for resources sharing. That is the intention of Afe Babalola University with other private institutions in Southwest. This symposium is the purpose for the need for a task force committee, an association, where this training will be done after this flag off. Metadata scheme will be created to repository, set rules, forum, and a platform for further sharing. And how do we achieve this as librarians? This is the hub, the connection we need to be able to align all I have said. How do we achieve this as librarians to build capacity? We need to create the following units. A metadata management librarian cataloger should be trained with modifications to know what to do. The scholarly librarians unit be created in academic libraries, which Afe Babalola already has. 3, publishing librarians units. Librarians should be trained on publishing of open access journals. We already have a repository management directory, that is DOAJ. The repository management, which is a directory of open access journals, the library should create that unit. About 20 to 50 African journals are in DOAJ from Nigeria, Morocco, and Algeria. We have about 20 local African journals, which therefore would, the activities can help the librarians in open access agenda to develop their proficiency in their practices and technological know-how. The strategies that entails in the roles of librarians. These are the strategies we can play with collaborators and partners in achieving the purpose for which the open access will be created. What are the strategies that we can play with collaborators and partners? With research institutions, one, the strategies with research institutions, librarians can join research teams and take up roles of curation and dissemination of data sets for specific services. E.g., Afe Babalola University has a research and innovation committee, which is called URIC. It is headed by our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Information, Research and Innovation, Professor Damilola, and is online right now listening. Another role is with local publishers. Librarians can catch on open journal system for free software for the management of local Nigerian peer-reviewed journals for global visibility online. They can also partner with funding agencies. Librarians can apply and seek funding from research funding agencies like the founders of this SEED award grants, this Open Research Founders Group, which the convener, Mr. Idowu, was able to access to bring this symposium to be. Open science advocates in Nigeria, we can work with them. We have WACREN, they are always training. We can partner with them. We can partner with LibSense and EcoConnect. What are the expected outcome of this workshop? Librarians are key players in open science from all I have said. And we have to be internationally visible in the transformation of this agenda. How? To promote transparency, collaboration, and accessibility to information sharing towards the advancement of knowledge for the global society. Academic librarians, the outcome of this workshop symposium is that academic librarians in the region of Africa should cooperate and operate borderless libraries to enable resources sharing openly across the continent. That is what we call libraries without borders. This will help to promote our indigenous research to solving our peculiar African problems in the context in which they occur or they were created, and improvement of scholarship and enhancement of collaborative research. We understand that African problems cannot be solved with international concepts because we have a peculiar system. Our cultures, our values, they are different. So we can only use our own research outputs to resolve our problems. In conclusion, it is our earnest expectation in Afe Babalola to create a consortium of scholarly librarians association with this awareness and practical workshop for the establishment of open science in Southwest Forum. I want to especially thank you for taking your time to listen. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's applaud the librarian of Afe Babalola University, Mrs. Subar. A poet once said, "Books sail to many lands." And with the concept of open science, we can see that we are in the age of information technology where words move in borderless sky. Thank you very much once again, Ma. We appreciate you. I think our internet connection is back, and we will have to go back to join our online participants, and where we'll be listening to the keynote speaker, Professor Niro Adetoro. Ladies and gentlemen, I have read the citation of Professor Adetoro earlier on, So it's time to listen to the keynote speaker. Enjoy it. I'm sorry, we might have to move to the next speaker. Looks like we're having issues with. Can we go ahead? Okay, I'm not getting the right information. Are we still connected to Professor Nero? Okay, while we wait, ladies and gentlemen, we might have to move to the next presentation, and that is going to be from Mr. Idowu, Adegbilero Iwari. Please permit me to read the short profile bio of Mr. Adegbilero. Mr. Adegbilero Iwari Idowu is presently the Scholarly Communication Librarian and Head College of Science Library, Afe Babalola University, Ado Ekiti. Idowu is the first Nigerian to serve as Scholarly Communication Librarian in a Nigerian library. Idowu is winner of many notable grants, fellowships, and scholarship, including the prestigious J. Jordan Helicarrier Fellowship Award for year 2016 and the Carnegie Training Grant for Next Generation Africa Librarians at the University of Pretoria, South Africa in 2015. A long-time enthusiast of open, Idowu consolidated his entry into the scholarly communication space when he received the first 2 Scholarly Communication Institute 2018 scholarship to attend the summer course in scholarly communication at University of California, San Diego, USA in July and August 2018. Idowu returned to FSCI in 2019 at the University of California, Los Angeles to co-teach the course When Global is Local. 3 leading scholars from Canada, Argentina, and Algeria were there, where they navigated with course participants, research communication, and open access in Global South. He was offered a specialized board grant to attend the Library Publishing Collation Forum in the spring of 2020 at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. Idowu is a certified librarian of Nigeria who is passionate about open science, scholarly communications, technologies in the library, public and community library development, and modernization of library environments. He is leading the online presence of many Nigerian journals, digital objects identifier, management and deployment of institutional repositories, as well as library management system. I need this attention. He is a poet, a seasoned presenter, and trainer on emerging scholarly techniques. He has organized and facilitated numerous training programs within and outside his institution, some for which he won international competitive grants, such as UNESCO OA Week grant. He managed a bio grant, a weblog about libraries and other issues. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Idowu Adegbilero.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was a nice one. I will give all the glory to God for the benefit He has showed us in the course of research and scholarship. We want to thank the Vice Chancellor of the University for coming in dual way. He sent a representative, and she came in herself. It's a very huge honor. We appreciate that. The university librarian, my super boss, thank you so very much for giving us this opportunity and platform to thrive. And the Honorable Commissioner, a very special person, dynamic, amiable, wonderful, individual. Please let me give him a round of applause. We are very delighted to have you with us, supporting us, and to also come and share your wealth of knowledge with us on the great work you are doing for our state, for Nigeria, and for humanity. So I will just go straight to my presentation, which the university librarian has, done quite, I think about 90% of what I want to speak about. She has talked about them. So my job is very easy, and that happens quite often in open science gathering or scholarly communication gathering, because we speak about almost the same thing, and the ideal, the movement is about the same goal. So that is my name. But I'll be narrowing down to understanding open scholarship practices. Open scholarship practices. Okay, there is open science, but there are practices that make up, that paradigm. Now, she has talked to us about what is open science, right? open science, I also call it open research or open scholarship. They all mean the same thing, because science is just the umbrella word, so that those in law, those in humanities or other fields of knowledge will not be exempted. So the word research, open research, is a safe way, to also describe the concept we are talking about, or you call it open scholarship. And that is why my topic is open scholarship practices. I can as well call it open science practices or open research practices. So it has been defined to us. But just to emphasize again that it is a set of ideals, okay, or practices that aim to make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone. The librarian has justified, and the Vice Chancellor too, has justified why we need open access or other components of the open science construct. And the other thing is to increase scientific collaboration and sharing. If our works are openly available, accessible, there will be opportunity for reusability and opportunity for collaboration and resource sharing. And the other one is to open the process of scientific knowledge, creation. There is a process around it. So it has to be opened up, the creation, the evaluation, and the communication, to societal actors beyond the traditional four walls of the academia. Now, open science, I call it something that is beyond open access, because open access is just one of the 4 pillars of open science. And it happened to be the starting point for open science or anything on open scholarship. That was where it started from. The first agitation was for access to knowledge. Before now, you want to go online to download articles, you have to subscribe to your library, or you have to pay hard currency, $35, $45 to read for a few minutes or for a few days to download and keep. And after that, you lose access. But, researchers began to talk about, let us change the dynamics. Let there be a change in the way we access, published scholarship. And that brought about the idea of open access. And that's the starting point, the foundation, work for open science. Thereafter, we begin to, negotiate why there should be need for broader things. And the benefits are, enormous. One of it is public engagement with science or with research and public trust in what we are doing. You remember during COVID, there were a lot of theories, all around COVID. Some people said it was because of 5G that COVID came, different kind of things. But, and the idea of trust in science, some people will say, follow this approach, it will work. Follow that approach, it will not work. At some point, I can remember President Trump of the United States was more or less going to say, he's disagreeing with what, Fauci, the director of the American, Public Health Agency, he was going to disagree with him. And Fauci was working on evidence-based scientific results. So if there is open access or open science, then there will be a public trust in what? In scientific findings. The other benefit is scientific community overall, will benefit from it through peer review, a trustworthy peer review mechanism. Many of us as scholars, we submit articles, for publication, and you will send it out. After 2 weeks or a month or so, they return it back to you that your work is rejected. How? Why? Reviewer will do review work. Maybe sometimes after a year, they will be saying your work is rejected, and you don't even know what the reviewer is saying, because the whole thing is is closed. But where you have an open process of peer review, for instance, you will be able to say, okay, people can critique openly. Just like making comments on Twitter or anywhere else. People can critique openly, this work is fine, this work is not fine. Why did you say this approach or method is not working? I have tried it. So there could be that forth and back conversation, and most of the works that, would have suffered rejection, perhaps they would have been accepted for publication, and authors would have been encouraged. And apart from that, networking and collaboration. If our works are out there, people can know what you are doing, what you are up to and what you can contribute to what they want to do. There will be room for collaboration and networking. The other thing is innovation and commercialization of knowledge and visibility and impact. Today we talk of ranking of our universities, ranking of scholars. Okay, if our works are not available, accessible, reusable, and they are not being cited, there is no way we can gauge the impact, of our contribution to scholarship. So open science brings the benefit of, us having enhanced impact, ranking, and opportunity for research and replication. Now, there are many schools of thought around open science. And those schools of thought informs the various components of open science that the university librarians spoke about the other time. The first school of thought is the infrastructure school, okay? And this school of thought assumes, that there should be, tools. There should be tools and applications that are openly available, for research. And because of that, they are guided by keywords such as, collaboration platforms or tools. There are online platforms where you can collaborate with people. There are virtual research environments, okay? There is a platform called Open Science Framework. From there, you can initiate a research work from start to publication, register it, and continue all the way, doing the work forth and back, gathering data, analyzing it, and you can work with people from all over the world, just on your system. That is the infrastructure school of thought. The other one is the public school of thought. The public school of thought assumes that there must be accessibility by the public to research. Okay, many times we publish, research for great research, and the public, they cannot interact with the outcomes of our effort in the laboratories, outcomes of our effort on the research field. So that is not fair enough, and that brings about the higher area of citizen science, science public relations, and science blogging. The other one is measurement school of thought. Before now, there is something we call scientometric, measuring the impact of research. So the open science school of thought that are based on a measurement school, they look at, okay, what are the other ways that can enhance the measurement of research and the impact of scholars. The idea of altmetrics, peer review gauging, citation measurement, impact factors, from there they emerge. The other school of thought is the democratic school of thought. Democratic school of thought believes or assumes that everybody must have equal access, to knowledge, and knowledge must be distributed evenly across different geographical location, different ethnic, technology, irrespective of where you stand or find yourself on the economic scale or socioeconomic scale or whatever thing that could be a measurement guide. There must be equal access to all. And the last one is the pragmatic school of thought. Pragmatic school of thought assumes that knowledge creation could be more efficient if scientists work together, okay? And they are guided by keywords of things like wisdom of the crowd, that is crowdfunding for research, crowdsourcing, for research work, and opening up codes, research codes and data. Now, I will skip this. Like I said the other time, that my librarian has spoken about it, the pillars of open science. But just to reiterate, we have the open scientific knowledge, which has to do with open access and all of that. And we have the open science infrastructure, okay, and the open engagement of societal actors. And lastly, we have the open dialogue with other knowledge systems. Okay, there are knowledge systems that are different from the conventional scientific knowledge, all right? Like our indigenous knowledge systems. How we do agriculture in Ekiti, it's not the way they do it in the USA, right? How they do agriculture, even in Nigeria, among the Iberas, might not be the way, or how they cure certain disease or the other might not be the way it is being cured, in the UK, for instance. So, open science agrees that we must incorporate other knowledge, systems if we really want to get equitable access, to knowledge. Now, we have seen this from the librarian's presentation, and this is just an expanded view of the various elements of open science. We have open data, citizen science, open source, open innovation, open notebook, open evaluation, open educational resources, such as for our textbooks, crowdfunding, open laboratory, open hardwares, open access, and I've talked about open infrastructures. Now, I'm going to the specific area I want to talk about. That is open science or open scholarship practices. What are they? These are a set of principles, okay, and approaches that prioritize transparency, collaboration, openness in scientific research. Transparency, collaboration, and openness. These are the guiding keywords for open science practices. And we have quite a number of the examples of open science practices, which are also tied to the component or element or pillars of open science. For instance, we have open access publishing. That is a practice. The other one is open data sharing. When you collect your research data, do you destroy them? Do you keep them to yourself, or you make them available openly? Then preprint servers, pre-registration, citizen science, open peer review, and open materials. I will not talk about them one after the other, just about 3 or 4 of them. Now, open access publishing. It is a set of principles and a range of practices through which research outputs are distributed online, free of access, free of access charges and other barriers. What are the other barriers? There could be legal barriers, copyright. Many of us at times we want to work on the material, but our hands are tied with what? Copyright, matters. The other one is technological barriers. So all these open access is saying, let us remove the barriers of, what's it called, of payment, barrier of law, and barrier of what? Of technology. So when you have that, and scholarship is released, knowledge is released to the public, we are talking about open access. And there are various types of open access, how it has been proposed to be achieved, and how we are doing it currently. Even though the ideal is still being negotiated, what is the best approach to achieve open access? One is the gold open access route. The gold open access, is the APC-based model. I'm not talking of APC, Nigerian political party. I'm talking about the article processing charges, as you are also conversant, or aware of, that you pay for your work to be openly available. You have to pay the publisher or the journal. Okay, once you pay, they release your work. If you don't pay, your work will be kept behind paywall, so that if anybody wants to access it, they will have to pay to read. So the payment or the fee thing is transferred to the author, so that the readers can do what? Can have free access. That is open access, the gold open access. The other one is green open access, which, we use the repository. Green open access stipulates that researchers or authors are free to publish their work, and share it with anybody, including their own personal website, personal repository, institutional repositories, so that people can have access to it immediately. The other approach is the diamond or platinum, approach. I was talking with Dr. Bashiru there, on a diamond, approach they are trying to develop somewhere. Now, diamond is that both the author and the readers, they have access, and none of them is paying, but somebody is paying. Who is paying? Perhaps a funding agency, perhaps a government, ministry or parastatal, perhaps an institution. Like Abwad can say, all the journals in Abwad, there is an endowment grant from perhaps a founder or somewhere, let them publish, for free, and let readers access those materials for free. That is diamond. So both reader and author, nobody is, paying anything, but the fund is coming from somewhere. So there is no, best approach yet, to achieve open access. But what we have seen over the years is that the first one, the gold open access, is being bastardized, and that's where the idea of predatory journals, springs, from. You have journals that charge $100, $50, $500 in some cases, without doing anything to your article. You submit today, in 2 days' time, it is published. All they are after is the money you want to pay them. So they are bastardized because in the name of open access. And that is why somebody like this famous librarian from the US, Jeffrey Beall, would never believe in open access. He condemns it, and he has a list of predatory journals, that is still being debated all around the world today. That how can somebody sit down and say this one is predatory, this one is not? But of course, there are self-evidences for identifying predatory, publishing platforms. Now, the second one is open data sharing. putting your research work, your data set out on a repository, that is open data sharing as an open science practice. And there are platforms you can use for this. For instance, I list DryAd. That's a good platform to achieve open data sharing. The other one is Figshare. I don't know if you have come across this. And the benefits are there, reproducibility. What you have done, perhaps you have recruited people to gather data for you on an EU in Nigeria, okay? And somebody wants to do the same thing, let's say COVID, for instance, or malaria, for instance, and you have a data set you have gathered. There is no point, wasting that data set. Push it out. Somebody in another 10 years or 5 years, even the same year, if the data is available, can access it and have a new insight, draw new insight from your research data. And that is why advocacy is being made that data, should be shared as an open science practice. The other one is pre-registration of research. Okay, this ideal has to do with before you even go to the field or write your research, you have the idea, the concept. Go and register it on a registry. There are research registries. Register it, okay? Your method, your hypothesis, and the analysis plan. Put it out there. It can be critiqued at that level. People can see it and say, this thing you want to do, are you sure it's going to work this way? Then you can defend yourself, it will work. Or you can learn from their own knowledge after contributing to, seeing it and they have made contributions to it. The other one, there are platforms to achieve this. I talked about the open science framework the other time, and as predicted, it's another platform to achieve pre-registration. And for those in medical line, we have clinicaltrials.gov. Now, the other practice is posting in preprint servers. What are preprints? They are the author's original manuscripts, okay? That is the version of your own article before you submit it to a journal for peer review. So after writing your article, and you are okay with it, okay, that is what we call preprint. So if you push it out to a preprint server, okay, then it becomes, available to the scientific community. They can interact with it, and they can critique your work. In fact, many journals today, they ask you if you are submitting, when you are submitting, to them, that as this work, be featured in a preprint server. If yes, put the link to it. What they are asking for is that once the work is already out in a preprint server, and they can go back there to see what has been the interaction on this work. If it has been good, it really helps peer review, Maybe you are supposed to stay for another 1 year or 8 months for peer review to go forth and back. But because they have seen the interaction with your work on preprint server, it will, hasten it, and the process will be concluded, much earlier than it should have been. And there are various examples of preprint servers. The first one is the archive, XIV, for physics and for those in computational, sciences. So that's the very first one, and it is, taking the place of journal today, and it's one of the best platforms for publishing research work from around the world. And during COVID again, preprint servers, skyrocketed. People began to believe in them because people were researching into COVID, something that we knew little about, and they were pushing them out. You don't have to wait for peer review for people to know what is happening about COVID. Most of it were going to what? The preprint servers. Now, because today we're talking about UNESCO recommendation on open science, we also want to take the pleasure of talking about what are the core values and principles of open science, more so that the keynote speaker, we are having technical AU connecting him to dissect that document, but this can be a benefit to us. The UNESCO core value and principle of open science are these: the values, quality and integrity. Open science are guided by what? The value of quality and integrity, collective benefit, equity and fairness. The librarian talked about, fair, that is free, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. So open access is open science is guided by this value. And diversity and inclusiveness. I spoke about bringing in or having consideration for other knowledge systems like indigenous knowledge. Then the principles, we have transparency, scrutiny, critique, and reproducibility. The other one is equality of opportunities. Then responsibility, respect and accountability, for people in the scientific world. Then collaboration, participation, and inclusion. The other one is flexibility. And lastly, sustainability. Now, UNESCO has, some goals to achieve, with open science. And one of it, there are recommendations for, member states of UNESCO. And just to summarize this page is that they should take action. They should support infrastructure for open science. They should support advocacy for open science. They should support, the key actors like institutions and researchers, to promote and imbibe open science, practices. Now, for their member states, UNESCO is also asking, they are also giving out areas of action. One of it is development of enabling policy environment. When we go to our breakout session, we'll talk about policy, investing in human resources, for open science, and investing in infrastructure and services. The other one is promoting cooperation among, all the actors in research, community. Then the other one is promoting innovative approaches and fostering culture of open science in the member states. And lastly, promoting a common understanding about open science. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Adegbilero. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together for him once again? It is not easy to be a convener. It takes a lot of effort, and in every institution, the library is a very important part of any academic institution, and we are happy that our librarian and other librarians in this university have brought us together to learn about open access. Before we move to the other part of the program, I would like to recognize the presence of some of our invited dignitaries. I'll start with Dr. Bashiru Adetomiwa, who traveled all the way from Redeemers University to join us here in Ado Ekiti. Thank you, sir. We are happy to have you at Afe Babalola University. And also, I want to recognize the presence of Dr. Olajide Fasheki from Federal University, Oye Ekiti. You're welcome. Also, I want to welcome Dr. Olugbemi Olumide from Afe Babalola University here is one of the presenters. And all the way from Ekiti State Polytechnic, we have the representative of the librarian, who is Mr. Akinola Ayodele. You're welcome, sir. At this point, media, do we have connection so that we can connect with our keynote speaker, Professor Nero? Media, do I have the signal now? Okay. At this point, while we're waiting for signal, it is time to invite my co-anchor to take a very important part of this. Okay, I think Professor Ade Toro is online, but I need to get the sound to be sure. This time around, we can hear him. Please, let's have the sound. Prof, can you hear us?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Thank you.
So, I did go into technical problem that we have, but as a vice chancellor, I have a lot of demands The last 2 3 hours, I've been sitting down as I speak with you. Inside the car. This excuse me for if there's any hitch. My brother, I'm moving to another meeting somewhere at another university. But as I go on, I will quickly do justice to this topic. And what I've asked to do is actually to also come to the understanding of the recommendations of the open science as put forward by the UNESCO towards understanding the UNESCO recommendation of open science adoption for higher educational institution in the state. Higher educational institution in the state. So, as a way of introduction, which I think I think Pilaro did some
recording in progress.
Librarian. Well, open science are a set of principles, practices, and which aim to actually make scientific or what we call STI, scientific and technical information, accessible to everyone. Because it is to benefit the scientists themselves and also benefit humanity. So it builds on the essential principles of academic freedom, research integrity, and scientific excellence. So open science strictly is about making sure that scientific knowledge, the knowledge we produce, outcome of research, are accessible to everyone, as well as the process of producing the research itself. It's very inclusive, it's transparent, it's equitable, and it's sustainable, like has been put forward in the course of the earlier presentations. It has the potential to make science more transparent, like has been said, but essentially it comes to democratize knowledge, so that everybody has access. And it is increasingly recognized by the SDG as a critical accelerator that will help us to achieve the ideals of the SDG, or help us to get there, so to speak. Well, open science originated decades ago. I mean, it's not in Newton really, but starting in the pipeline decades ago as a movement, to transform scientific practice and adapt to the challenges, the opportunities, the risk of the digital era. So actually, the digital era that actually starts at integral to the emergence of open science. But even before open science becomes what we have today, there are some methods and instruments that have been in place before now. In 1999, the UNESCO ICSU Declaration of Science and Use of Scientific Knowledge was there. In 2002, we all know the very popular Budapest Open Access Initiative came on board. In 2003, that was the bestseller Statement of Open Access published. And in 2003, the popular Berlin Declaration of Open Access. So these are instruments that have been on ground before the UNESCO actually had its own recommendation for it, which was attested to by a lot of countries. So this recommendation we're talking about, the UNESCO recommendation of open science, is the first global international instrument setting the standards of open science. And the recommendation through a regional, balanced, inclusive, and transparent process. So in other words, it was a product of real transparencies, or a product of real inclusivity. It was a process of representation by the regions of the world, and therefore, 193 countries signed to it in November 2021. 193. So it's a global instrument. And therefore, why do we need it? This has been, I think some of us have mentioned it this morning. We want to promote science, free access, making science more accessible to the people who actually need it. make it more transparent, inclusive, and essentially, benefit the entire humanity, as stated in the Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it's a human rights issue, if you like. So what are the key messages that, which I think has been people worried? The key message, I'll just run through them very briefly. Open science aims to increase sharing of scientific knowledge that has been spoken about today, so that it can benefit everyone. The recommendation put up by UNESCO on open science provides international framework. So it's an international instrument for policy and practice. For policy, for us as librarians seated here, as educators seated there, we also domesticate all these things in terms of policies that we put in place and for our practice. Then you have the recommendation is also built upon the values of integrity, equity. This has been mentioned earlier today, and you can promote open science essentially by reading, talking about it, and we're doing now. We're talking about it, we're reading about it, writing about it, and essentially becoming open science, if you like, open science ambassadors. So we are sitting here today and want to thank the funders, for providing the funds for this symposium. So we need to invest in open science, and to do that, we have to be first and foremost keen to the reality of open science in terms of us becoming ambassadors and open science. The practice of open science has been enshrined in that recommendation. 3 cardinal aims. And that one, make knowledge for all accessible, open processes, open the process and the products of knowledge creation to people outside our traditional community. In other words, people who are not supposed to who naturally don't have access. In the effort to democratize it. Importance in the US, there was this clamor for that scholars will start publishing in open access journal. Why? Because many of the researchers get free money. I mean, they get taxpayers' money, to push their research.
We are sorry about that. I know that sound was not good enough. We are really sorry about that. And while we're about to join Professor Nero, I saw the Provost of Law, and unfortunately I could not put on my mic at that point to recognize his presence, Professor Ebenezer Atunde Yebisi. We are sorry that have to be interrupted, but we promise you will get every material used for presentation here in printed form, and that's why we have email address of everyone in the audience so that we can send the presentations to you. We are really sorry. At this point, I want to invite Dr. Ife Bamidele to this side of the podium so that we can move to
So, hello? Okay, if I can continue now. Well, I'm on Can I go on?
Hello, Prof. Are you there?
I'm here now. Oh, okay. I think we can go on now. All right. So, now to understand open science, it may help us to, to consider what we had before, which was the closed science environment of those days, where you have, in those times, research are published in paywalls, in paywall journals, and you can't have access to it. Only few can have access. In fact, you have to pay to have access. Where you have data that supports scientific results being unavailable or only accessible to those who you say can afford it. Then you have software, source code, workflows, protocols being unknown, or in other words, inaccessible. And you also have situation where people knowledge produced in developing countries, in the developed world, and science that is inaccessible to communities that would benefit from it. For instance, we in Africa want desires of this scientific knowledge to improve our situation. But in contrast to that, what we have in the closed system, now you now have open science, you can have increased access, availability of data, tools, processes, scientific practices. And this document you get, you can actually reproduce them, and reuse, because they come from a transparent, inclusive, and a collaborative effort. So it calls for engagement of stakeholders beyond the scientific community. Of course, we belong to the scientific community here. However, we need to push this reality to persons who are not scholars like us. So it engages the broader public, by reaching contributors and end users alike, through collaborative research, crowdsourcing, volunteering, and transdisciplinary methods. Now, access to scientific knowledge, of course, that we have been pushing all now, in the course of this discourse, should be as open as possible. However, we need to also stress that in some instances, information, scientific information, knowledge can be restricted. It depends on the situation. For example, when you have to protect human rights, when situations of confidentiality, intellectual property rights, personal information, you want to protect your personal information, in situation of threatened or endangered species, it's a global issue, and in situation of sacred and secret indigenous knowledge. So in these situations, there could be restriction to access. But beyond that, open access should encourage scientists to develop tools and to develop methods for managing data, so that as much data as possible can be available. So the world needs open science, and the reason being that we need open science because we have global challenges. The SDG goals are there for one to achieve, but there are global challenges: poverty, armed conflict, climate crisis, environmental degradation, health and emotional crises. They are all urgent issues. If you agree with me, it's believed that we know that science, technology, and innovation can better respond to this problem. So we need to collect and apply ideals from diverse contributors and knowledge systems to solve all these problems. And they come from what will assist in this regard is open democratization of knowledge, open science, so to speak. So open science also has the potential to accelerate the achievement of the SDG by reducing and ending inequality. Even as we sit down in this hall, we are not equal. There are inequalities between, countries, within countries. So the reality of inequality has ever been to reduce it and try to eradicate it as one of those two. This, like you do better, it used tomorrow.
Looks like we lost the internet connection, connecting us to Professor Adetoro and other online participants. No doubt, we've had so much to do in this short time, but we are sorry about the disconnection and some of the technical issues we are experiencing, most especially the ones that has to do with sound. We don't intend to cause noise pollution. We are really sorry. Dr. Bamidele Ife, please, I need your attention here. Thank you everyone for paying attention and listening despite all the issues. We appreciate your presence. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Earlier, I mentioned that we have one of our guests who is a lead paper presenter and who is a dedicated public servant. I've waited for this opportunity to invite him and to read his citation. Let me say that I have been privileged on this same podium to read the citation of about 3 presidents, serving and former, a few governors, some commissioners, and leaders of business and thought opinion. But today, I'm privileged to read the citation and invite to the podium Honorable Sheun Fakwade, my own brother. Honorable Sheun Fakwade. Please, a round of applause for the Honorable Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Digital Economy. He will be taking his paper presentation, but before he takes his paper presentation, I will read his citation, an abridged version though. His Excellency, Mr. Fakwade is a dedicated public servant and strategic thinker, currently serving as the Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Digital Economy in Ekiti State. He was previously Special Advisor on Governance, Reforms and Innovation to Governor Oyebanji until his appointment as Commissioner. Prior to his current role, he held the position of Senior Special Assistant to Governor Fayemi on Policy, Research and Documentation, where he contributed significantly to economic research and documentation for the government, as well as helping His Excellency Fayemi oversee the implementation of GIS program, LAMP, and worked directly with the governor in writing the state's 30-year economic development plan. His contributions extend to project management, monitoring and evaluation, project scoping, planning, and the implementation of innovative public policy initiatives. Mr. Fakwade has also been instrumental in designing multifaceted public sector innovation programs aimed at improving administrative efficiency through digital technology innovation. With over 10 years of experience in public policy, strategic planning, project management, and policy communications, he is a recognized development thinker, digital transformation professional, and governance specialist. He played a pivotal role in supervising infrastructure projects and critical economic initiatives of the Ekiti State government, totaling more than 50 billion naira. You can clap. His diverse experiences and academic background have equipped him with the skills and knowledge needed to drive innovation, economic development, and good governance. Before his public office stint, he served in many roles as strategic thinker, lead majorly as managing director of Bedazzle Media, specializing in public communications, founder and principal partner at Brace and Quaid Abuja, and has led many political campaigns, including as DG of New Media, including the El-Rufai 2015 campaign in Kaduna, as well as playing roles in the election of Governor Kayode Fayemi in Ekiti State. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Fakwade holds a bachelor's degree from the Obafemi Awolowo University and a Master of Public Administration degree from the prestigious, world-renowned Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, where he focused on creating economic centers of prosperity through clusters and economic competitiveness. This academic background has informed his approach to policy and governance. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me the lead paper presenter, Honorable Shehu Fakwade. Gentleman, leader, commissioner, specialist in governance and reforms, innovator, to this presentation. The Honorable Sir. Thank you so much.
I want you to give yourself a round of applause, everybody. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Please turn to someone sitting next to you. I know you are not in church, but let's start with that kind of dialogue. I've listened to professors today, I've listened to scholars today. I don't want to bore you with anything I have to present. They've done everything that I want to do. So turn to someone and say, bring down the paywalls. Okay, you don't believe it. Bring down the paywalls. I will go back to that statement in the course of my presentation. I want to thank you so much for inviting me to contribute to the body of work already existing in terms of open access, open science. And this is an opportunity that I don't take lightly, and I really thank you. Thank you everyone for staying. This will be an interesting conversation. I want to thank the Honorable Vice Chancellor, the founder, our father, and elder statesman, Are Afe Babalola. We're standing on a very distinguishable ground today in Afe Babalola University known all over the country and perhaps soon the world, because a man had a vision and stayed by that vision. And this place is a testament that if you believe in something, you can do anything. A round of applause for our father. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been said today about, open science, about information dissemination. And a lot of the definitions have been encapsulated by the words of the last speaker, the professor, the vice chancellor, my brother, my sister, my elder sister here. And I'm not going to bore you at all. We know what open science is. They've explained in different terminologies and in different words. So I just want to go very quickly to make this come straight home, to make this hit our bellies, to make this eat what we want to do here and what we're planning to do as government of Ekiti State. Why is open science? Why is knowledge innovation spillovers important? I want you guys to journey with me back to June 28, 1941. Some of us know this man. We know him as an evil genius. A lot of times, a lot of persons have been described in this country as evil geniuses. But as a student of history, I dare tell you that I have not come across a much more evil genius than this man that you're staring at on our screen, Adolf Hitler. And what did Adolf Hitler do? And why is he important to the conversation this morning about open science, about knowledge economy, about information science, about innovation? This man single-handedly put together some of the best thinkers in the world in order to stop him. Let that sink in. Most of us here who were born years, decades after this man's onslaught on the world happened will not be here today if the world did not stop for a moment to galvanize together and stop him. I'm talking to you about a country called Germany that went against every doctrine of peacekeeping, of unity in the world. I'm talking to you about a singular man's action uniting the rest of the world. But guess what? We will not be standing here today if not for open science. We will not be here today in this venue if not for open science. Because at the time in 1941, when the World War II had commenced for about 2 years, the world was losing big time. The manufacturing industries in Germany was producing so much manufacturing products, blitzkrieg and a lot of the German machines that were destroying and pulverizing the world. And this had to compel the forces of the United States, the developed economies, to come together. The scientists, the engineers, the reformers, the public workers, in order to stop this man. On June 28, 1941, a pivotal moment in the annals of American science and innovation happened. In the crucible of the World War II, President Roosevelt issued an executive order 8807, which gave birth to what we now know today as Office of Scientific Research and Development. What was this OSRD, as it was called, or as it is referred to now? OSRD was a constellation of more than tens of thousands of scientists working together in an open platform to exchange information towards stopping Adolf Hitler. Let me explain again. Adolf Hitler had invaded a lot of countries, was on a rampage, attacked Poland, Czechoslovakia, had attacked Britain, was attacking France. The world was on a losing streak until that fateful day when President Roosevelt, on 28 June 1941, signed an executive order to establish that development agency, a scientific research development agency. And what did it do? It galvanized everyone across the world, from Britain to France to the United States of America. University of Berkeley, University of Columbia, MIT, all of these universities coming together to say to themselves, if we don't bind together, if I don't share my resources with you from MIT, if I don't share my resources with you from the University of Cambridge, if I don't share my resources with you from the University of Manchester in the United Kingdom, we will lose this war. And what happened? After many years of research, of course, as the work was going on, they were issuing products to the world, and the world was helping to stop the onslaught of the German forces. One of them, today you travel from Lagos to Abuja, you go from Abuja to the United States, you go across the world. There is something very pivotal that the airports, the planes use in communicating to the airport: radar. The radar was discovered during the war. The radar came to be because scientists came together collaboratively to work in what we're referring today as open science together, so they can stop a common foe. Radar was discovered because before, the German forces in their ships would attack because the Allied forces did not know where they were attacking from. They couldn't see them. But with the radar, they could pinpoint when an attack was coming or when it was about to happen. Not just that, some of you here are students of life sciences. Professor of pharmacy is here. Penicillin, OSRD, because they came together and shared information one to another. Not just that, proximity fuse. So initially, when the Allied forces shoot launch an attack against the German forces, the planes, it misses because they dodge and they evade that attack. But there was a proximity fuse that was discovered and produced by the OSRD, which allows you, when the bomb is about to hit the target, it explodes so that you cannot evade that attack. It was also discovered during that time and manufactured by the scientists. Why am I going and taking us down memory lane? I want to bring it home to you. When I graduated from the Obafemi Awolowo University in 2007, December, I recall that, like many of the students who are here, or the professors who are here who have done their PhDs, you would submit a thesis that perhaps today, only if God helps OAU, if I ask them to find my thesis, they won't find it. We have academic information, research information that are sitting on the shelves, not utilized, because they are not accessible. They are not digitized, they are not accessible. There are thousands of brilliant ideas every year coming out of our university systems that are sitting on the shelves, some of them already withering away, owing to rust and degradation, that can transform our society and our country. Remember, the OSRD came together, led by Vannevar Bush, to revolutionize and stop a common foe of the world, to revolutionize and stop someone who was intent on destroying the world. Today, we face existential problem in Nigeria, and I can bet you, because of the level of thought that I've come across our institutions in Nigeria, that there are groundbreaking researches in our country that can shape our society, that can transform Ekiti State, that can transform Kaduna State, that are not accessible, and as such, not utilizable. So, you want to understand what open science is? It's that in simple terms. Information, data, research materials, scientific collaborations that can exist because I have access to information that I can utilize to change my society, to transform my community. Has anybody asked the question, why do we keep using bitumen and cement? Why have we not tried new methods to tar our road, to construct our roads in the country? I'm very sure in this country there are researchers who have done extensive work which are not accessible or known to a lot of practitioners in the public space, that should be democratized and made available so that we can change our community and society. Any education, any scientific research that has no bearing on society is an almost failed scientific research. If, as scholars, as students of education, as students of pharmacy, as students of medicine and other fields of learning, if our knowledge is not transforming society, There's a problem with how we are practicing education in the country. And this is why I'm excited about this summit and the symposium we're having this morning. How do we practically democratize access in Ekiti State? Beyond all the English language and all the grammars that we've been speaking here this morning, beyond all the UNESCO declarations, what is the declaration of Ekiti State? The committee of institutions that are sitting here today. We have BOST sitting here today. We have EXU sitting here today. We have FOIE sitting here today. What are we doing together as a team of people? How do we come together to say, how do we have access to all the research materials that are sitting in our institutions to change Ekiti State, to change Ipoli Oloro, to change Oye Ekiti, to change Ikole, to change Aramoko? What are the problems in Aramoko? How do we contextualize the problem towards making it groundbreaking that other communities across Ekiti, and by extension across Nigeria, can emulate and use to transform their communities? If our science makes no impact, if our law makes no impact because it's not accessible, we have a big problem. And that problem is why I am here today. I'm not here because we have 200 people, 100 people in the room. No, I'm here on how do we work together? How does this intellectual gathering bring together practical solutions? What is the role of government? As a state government, what is the role of the academia? How do we come together? If President Roosevelt on June 28, 1941 had not signed that order, you wouldn't have brought together that united force of over 130,000 scientists coming together to form solutions. So what do we do as a state government? What is your role as students in the university? What is your role as leaders of this university? We've seen from the speakers how open science, by democratizing access to science and information, can transform and revolutionize our world. It can accelerate innovation. It can bring new ideas that have not been thought about before. It can bring new ways of doing things. And I know that there's a challenge to open science too because of the intellectual property rights and patents. You know, I know fully well that it takes a lot of money to do extensive research. I also know fully well that today, developing economies and third world economies are suffering because there are paywalls on intellectual property by big pharma and American pharmaceutical institutions who have refused to let our citizens across the third world have access to quality medicals. So what do we do for ourselves as Africa? What do we do for ourselves as Nigeria? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. I dare say, and I can be wrong, but I know that there are hundreds of thousands of academic people in this country. What are we doing with the data that we're sitting on? As a people, as a country, what is the national repository of information, of research material that we have in this country? And how are we making them accessible? It is why I'm very, very excited that the University Library Institution is the one putting this together. Because the library is a pivotal and central unit in how we democratize access to these heavy quality materials. And I will paint some practical examples. And this is me again thinking out the box as I stand here before you. If the Afe Babalola University Ado Ekiti, as a private owned entity, comes together and makes proposition to the college or the collegiate of scholars in Ekiti State, saying to them, we are ready to bring open to the world the unbelievable research that's going on in Afe Babalola, Ekiti State University, BOST, FOIE, College of ELTech. Can you join forces with us to build a strong repository of information that's accessible by every Ekiti citizen, resident, anywhere in the world? That is revolutionary. Do you know why? A student in FOIE or Ekiti does not have to travel to Afe Babalola University to come and access any quality research material, because on perhaps openaccess.ekiti.gov.ng, it is available to you. Available, free, open, quality, standard. Auntie Subal talked about the standardization of our data. I'm not going to stand here and say we don't need it. Yes, we need it. We need a committee that would always make sure, not regulate, not do the same paywalls that we have problems with across the world, that will make sure that the standard of material, the quality of material is without question, but ensuring it is open and accessible. Let me paint you a very, very simple picture. On this screen of mine, this BSF, I joined a committee of colleagues who are trying to come into Ekiti State to set up an innovation hub last year, and they were discussing the black soldier fly and the impact and the revolution that this can bring in transforming our poultry system in the state, the feeding system for our agricultural value chain. And it will surprise you, on that day, after almost 2 hours of presentation, 2 professors from Ekiti State University, I've forgotten their names, stood up and told us, that they have research and they have tested it, but that they just have a problem of scaling of cow blood that can be used as a substitute for BSF. The quality may not be the same because they've not really scaled and really experimented on a wider scale, but the point was that they had experimented by themselves. It took a UK company to set up that meeting for us to listen to BSF, for academic researchers in Ekiti State to explain to us that the alternative end in cow blood that can serve as another recipe or catalyst to bring about food revolution in Ekiti State or Nigeria as a whole. Now imagine this. Do you know how many professors of agriculture we have in the country, or biotechnology, or genetic engineering, who need access to that information that they are sitting on the shelf? Because we have no digitized access, we have no digitization policy in our universities. Some of these things are rotting away, brilliant ideas rotting away that can transform our state and our country. So I was discussing with you about the issue of patents. Patents are important because as a scholar myself, or now someone who is in the public practice, I am very interested in how highly skillful young people think about ideas, invest in their ideas, and bring it out. But what is the goal of patents if it's not for public good? If patents has to last for 20 years and people who are suffering in third world countries cannot access it, what is the point of the innovation and invention that were brought about? I believe part of the open science conversation has to deal with how do we regulate the number of years that we waiting for patents to expire so that other parts of the world can have access to it. And I'm not just talking about the big pharma here. There are a lot of agricultural companies across the world, the Monsantos of this world, who are doing extensive, beautiful, expensive research and needs to be paid for it. But sometimes greed is just too much. If after 7-10 years, a patent should expire, actually, so that the other parts of the world can have access to that research material to change other parts of the world. But this is not a meeting or a rally call against patency, because I love patents, so long as it is fair and just for the rest of the world. Let me bring this conversation to why I've been asked to come here. Again, I'm not going to talk about open science because open science has been talked about. The Ekiti State government is working on what we will term a revolutionary idea to transform Ekiti State from intellectual brain, from intellectual capital and acumen, to prosperous capital. One year, Ekiti, they've said that arguably in every house in Ekiti State, you have a doctor or a professor. Well, I am also going to join that very noble ambition. I'm going to submit an article for PhD. Because what am I if I'm not an Ekiti man? And so, Governor Ibanji always asks a question. What is the point of your professorial degree if it does not lead to prosperity for you, your family, the people of Ekiti? I started earlier by saying OSRD, Vannevar Bush, right? Alan Turing in the UK. They came together. They were professors in their own right. Their professorial acumen transformed the world, leading to the end of the World War II, and then led to many companies that we know today. If you don't know, go and study about OSRD very well. A lot of the institutions that you know today as private companies started as an offshoot of the research that happened, that was kickstarted in 1941. But I digress. Let me come back to my point. What is the importance of the knowledge zone? It is a co-location, a cluster of highly cerebral individuals, companies, startups, brilliant minds coming together to develop Ekiti State through their ideas, through their innovative, transformative ideas, and enabling Ekiti State to grow from lips to lips to lips. Some of us know the country that is called the United States of America, and we know Silicon Valley. Everybody, when they talk about Facebook, WhatsApp, where are they located? Silicon Valley. But what we don't know, or maybe what some of us don't know, is the interrelatedness of that cluster to the academia, and how open science is how they have been able to transform and revolutionize the products that they have. Some of us know, or most of us know, that Facebook owner, Mark Zuckerberg, was in Harvard. And it was the collegiate experience and exchange of ideas between himself and his colleagues that led to the development of products that has transformed our world today. I can say, without doing any survey, everybody here uses Facebook, or worst case, use WhatsApp. And that was the action of a single man working with a collegiate group of friends to transform his idea into a product. So what is the knowledge zone? The knowledge zone is going to leverage our legacy asset as Iwe Ekiti, the intellectual state, the fountain of knowledge, to bring together the best of minds, the best of companies to a location close to the universities like Abuad, like Ekiti State Polytechnic, like EXU, to transform how we do things, how we revolutionize things, how we create companies that will serve our Ekiti and Nigeria as a whole. Why is this important? Ideas rule the world. Innovations rules the world. Science rules the world. And if we have a repository of information, of knowledge sitting in Ekiti State today, the governor's vision and Ekiti State's vision is that we have a co-located place sitting in Ekiti State where the best of minds in Ekiti can move together, work together, and transform Ekiti together. We also know what is called the Kenda Square in Boston. That's very related to MIT. Most of the brilliant transformative clusters that we have across the world, that is like the Ekiti State Knowledge Zone, are sitting either close to universities or have a very close relationship of interaction and collaboration with universities. It tells us something very important. If the Ekiti State Knowledge Zone is being designed according to global renowned innovation centers and parks, it means that we cannot but do the same thing that they've been doing, and of course contextualize to our own local realities. The meaning is that the Ekiti State Knowledge Zone will fail if the Afebawala University, if the EXU, if our FOE, if our Adopoli does not generate groundbreaking research that can inform how companies are revolutionizing their products in that place. And how do we do that? Collaborative, open science, like we have seen being explained today in this symposium. I must admit that this symposium we're having today is a revolutionary idea, because what it will take to bring us together, to start sharing our researches, to even structure and put a governance approach to how this open science become open access for everyone, is something we have to sit in the groups and discuss extensively. And I'm happy to make my own contribution, representing my boss, the governor of Ekiti State, on how the state can also bring its own support to bear in how we do this. It's been stated before that open science brings about new creative thinking, and the infrastructure that is required to make that happen is something that we have to also look at extensively. Where would the open structure be? Which institution would it sit in? What will govern it? Who will provide the funding? All of these things are critical things that we need to address as we go on in this conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any question in my mind, I believe very strongly in attending programs, symposiums, seminars, but I believe that they have to be practical and they have to lead to some transformative change in our community and society. And that is why today I'm calling you as scholars of repute, as students of knowledge, as people with brilliant ideas, people sitting on brilliant theses, brilliant innovations, we need to come together to transform our communities, to transform our society, to transform Ekiti State, to transform Nigeria as we may know it. The change we're looking for, it has been stated here, it is not from the West, it sits with us. But first we need to even recognize the power that we have and that we can do a lot of good for society when we open access to the information that we're sitting on. I've also drawn reference from MIT and Kendall Square. I've drawn reference from Silicon Valley and University of California, and how the inter-collaboration and working relationship between the two entities and other stakeholders in the cluster have brought about change in their different countries. Nigeria, and by extension, Ekiti State, cannot be an excuse to this. The vision of the knowledge zone to be a co-location of brilliant minds, brilliant brains, brilliant individuals and companies will not be complete without the interrelated relationship and collaborative work that you, the scholars, the academic institutions, will bring to the bear. It is worth knowing to say that, and reiterate that fact, that if Ekiti State must grow, the scholars, the academic minds must contribute without any iota of doubt to its significant growth. If Ekiti State must improve, the wealth of knowledge that we're sitting on must be unleashed, must be released so that we can transform our society. Ekiti State stands poised at the intersection of open science and the knowledge economy. By embracing openness, collaboration, and innovation, we can harness our research capabilities and intellectual capital to drive economic growth, to foster entrepreneurship, to address social challenges. And the knowledge zone, infused with your brilliant minds and your brilliant ideas and your brilliant thesis, is not just a project, it's a testament to the resolve of the government of Ekiti State to lead, innovate, and transform our society. As we stand on the precipice of this new era of transformation for digital innovation, I want us together to envision a future where Ekiti State is not only a pioneer in Nigeria, but a global beacon of innovation and open science. A future where our commitment to sharing knowledge, open information, catalyzes unprecedented growth, technology advancement, and societal well-being. Together, let us embark on this journey toward a brighter, more open, and collaborative future. We owe it to our world, we owe it to our children, we owe it to posterity to collaborate with openness, maximizing the eclectic nature of incredible science. Let us break down the walls of secrecy. Let us break down the walls of selfishness, of not working together. Let us embrace each other, embrace our universities, embrace our academia, and deliver a society that is not only intellectual, but prosperous towards solving local problems. Again, I reiterate, American companies are collaborating with American institutions of learning to solve their local problems in America. There is no doubt in my mind that we can and we should and we will do it here if we work together. I thank you so much for the privilege and your time, and I appreciate you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that inspiring and exhilarating talk. Please, we can do better. Let's applaud the Honorable Commissioner once again. And you have really shown good example of what the new Nigeria should be. You arrived early, and also you gave a very powerful presentation. Thank you, we appreciate you. At this point, I know that we've been sitting for over an hour. And if I ask you a question, apart from people you know before entering this hall, do you know the next person sitting to you? Are you sure? People in the audience, look at the person sitting next to you. I hope it's not just, Dr. Olugbemi, why are you sitting alone? There's nobody to look at. Please look at your neighbor, ask the person's name, contact, because this is part of the health break. Because you need to interact with people. We need a healthy communication and interaction. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are having a health break, and shortly we are going to have online survey. I want you to look at the screen. We are going to take a survey, and while all that is going on, we are going to serve light snack, and lunch is coming shortly after that. But we need to stay healthy, so that's why we call this health break. Make sure you talk to someone, most especially the person sitting next to you if you're seeing the person for the first time. And don't forget to look at the screen, because we are taking a survey. And after that, we will be connected to some of our speakers online, and lunch takes place. Please, I know that we are enjoying this, but to be sure that we are enjoying this, because I need that confirmation that we are doing the right thing. Please put your hands together for yourself for staying this long. We can do better. Thank you very much. So, I've not seen anybody interacting. I've not seen it. It's not happening. It is very important. Sir, do you know his name? Man. Okay, the students' corner. I know people from College of Pharmacy. You know yourself. And I can see students from law. Have you interacted? It is very, very important. Thank you very much. So I'll be waiting for Signal to know if the online survey is being projected. And after that, we are going to break into sessions, and it's going to be in A, B, C, D, like saying 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you pick A, the next person beside you will pick B, and the next person will pick C, and the next person will pick D. So that will make the 4 groups we are going to break the session into. Please enjoy the light snacks that we provide. And they say, he who gives water gives life. Please, you need a lot of water to re-energize yourself. It's been a long day sitting down. I know that is mentally tasking. So make sure you take in a lot of water. You need to rehydrate yourself. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that bottle fresh too. At this point, you can see the link to fill the survey. Please kindly fill the form. I'm going to call some of our dignitaries to give us 1 minute goodwill messages, and I'll start by calling the librarian of Federal University, Ekiti, Dr. Isaac Busayo. Please, let's encourage Dr. Busayo. You're welcome, sir.
All protocols duly observed. I am particularly warm to be here this morning, although this is afternoon. And, you know, those of us who by the grace of God are at the management level are always occupied with one meeting or the other. It is a privilege for me to be here today. And I want to say that my coming today is significant because I have been able to gain a lot. You see, like it is often being said, learning is a continuous exercise. We learn every day. And when we talk of reading, reading is also a continuous exercise. Whoever ceases to read ceases to live. Well, in the palace of librarianship, it is being said that whoever fails to publish will perish in silence. May we not perish in Jesus' name. So when we talk of open software, it is a trend that we must all embrace. And I want to commend the efforts of the organizers, the conveners, for putting this program in place. My other colleagues will also agree with me that they have gained one thing or the other. I was speaking with the Boese UL, who sat very close to me, that we will plead with the organizers to ensure that we have the soft copy of this presentation, because it is something that one should go back home and regurgitate over. Once again, I want to thank the organizers, I want to thank the conveners, and I want to thank all our guests, our commissioner, and our university librarians and colleagues from other universities and tertiary institutions who have created time to be here. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac Busayo. No doubt, we are going to get the copies of these presentations so that we can read them later. And we appreciate the fact that you are paying close attention to the discussion. At this point, I want to call on the representative of the librarian of Ekiti State University, Dr. Fabumi, who is represented by Mr. Familusi. Mr. Familusi, please let's put our hands together and encourage Mr. Fami Lucy from Ekiti State University.
I want to respect the existing protocol. On behalf of my boss, Dr. Fabomi F.A., I want to equally appreciate the LOC for this one-day program. The program to expose us to the modern trend in the open science discovery that, in particular, the Honorable Commissioner the other time was encouraging all higher institutions, particularly in Ekiti State, that it is high time for us to come together and exchange modern ideas in open science. So I still want to encourage us, more importantly, the library, the academic library administrators, that we shouldn't waste time again to follow this modern trend so that our state and Nigeria as a whole can experience a kind of modern revolution in the area of exchanging ideas, data, and even achieve more than what we could imagine in our environment and the society as a whole. So we thank you for coming, and God bless all of us, and wishing you a safe trip back to your destinations. Thank you.
I have always imagined that paradise would be a kind of library. And it is obvious that the librarians are custodians of such paradise for the reader and the writer. So, thank you, Mr. Fami Lucy, representing Dr. Fabomi, the librarian of Ekiti State University. We also want to call on the librarian of Federal Polytechnic at Ekiti, Dr. Ashiru, for the 1 minute goodwill message. And I also want us to get prepared for an online presentation, a recorded presentation by Dr. Penina Yomba Muzangi from Kenya. I'll read our recitation after we listen to the goodwill message from the librarian of Federal Polytechnic at Ekiti. Please, let's encourage him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I am representing the Acting Polytechnic Librarian, Federal Polytechnic at Ekiti, Dr. M.A. Ashiru. I am particularly happy to be in our midst today. In fact, something really impressed me when I got to this place, and I was told that we learned that this particular university used to do something that is not too common in Nigeria. That is to say, they help the staff to pay for foreign journals, publications. That is very, very impressive. The last time I saw this is when I was in Malaysia. That was the last time I saw this. And no wonder the university is one of the best in Nigeria. And I also think one of the other places I've seen that is Covenant University, something similar like that happened there too. So I want to encourage us, if other university can do this, Most especially, most of the universities are sending their staff outside. But unfortunately, when people come here, they are unable to continue publishing in most of these journals because of the price. There are some journals that if you hear the price, you will not even be able to publish there at all. But with what the Afe Babalola is doing, I think as the sky is the beginning for all the staff within this institution. Any staff that is here should just try and make sure they publish more and more because of their future. Thank you very much, and I want to thank all the organizers for this. Thank you.
Thank you for encouraging staff members of Afe Babalola University to publish. As scholars, we know that publishing is very important in this line of business. We appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned earlier, I said we are going to listen to Dr. Penina Yomba Muzangi. I have a short bio of Dr. Penina here with me, which I'll read before we get to listen to our presentation. Dr. Penina Yomba Muzangi is a university librarian and director, TVET, at Amref University, Amref International University. Dr. Musangi also serves as the treasurer of the governing board of Kenya Libraries and Information Services. She holds a PhD in Information Studies, a master's in Library and Information Studies, as well as a bachelor's degree in Information Sciences, specializing in Information Technology. She is a 2016 recipient of the coveted IFLA OCL Fellowship Award in Information and Knowledge Management field. She has over 15 years experience in managing university libraries. Dr. Musangi has been instrumental in the development and implementation of institutional respiratories and open access policies in more than 20 universities in Kenya through the EIFL/Spider project 2015 to 2020. Dr. Musangi is leading in the project for increasing adoption of ORCID by Kenyan researchers, a global participation fund for the year 2023. Media, can we please, do I have the connection to listen to Dr. Musangi? Okay. While we are still waiting for signal, we also have joining us on the online platform, Dr. Jayana Amarie. She is a postdoctoral research associate at the School of Information Sciences at the University of Illinois. She conducts research on peer-reviewed training for undergraduate and graduate researchers, public participation in peer review, and on public enlightenment, public engagement in science. She also teaches scholarly communication and information services for diverse users. And we have her online as part of the online participants. Ladies and gentlemen, because I know some of our online participants are there, please let's applaud them for standing by despite the long hours and the itches in technologies. Let's encourage them once again. I'm still waiting for signal from our media team. Okay, while we're waiting for signal, I mentioned earlier that we are going to break in group, I'm going to start from this side, and what we are doing is picking alphabets A, B, C, D. So if the librarian, whom I'm going to start with, the librarian of Afe Babalola University, Mrs. Subal, picks letter A, the Honorable Commissioner will be B, and Mr. Idowu Iwari, you automatically get C. So we continue that way. A, B, C, Sir, you are letter D. Ma, you are letter A. So let's continue that way. A, B, C. I want you to know your alphabet because that's what we are going to use to break into group. The A are going to be on one side, the B on one side, the C on one side, and the D on one side. So I stopped here. So you are B, C, D, sir. The next line, I want to start here again from this. You're welcome back, sir. We are about picking alphabets so that we'll use that as grouping for breaking into session. So now that you're back, you're going to pick alphabet D. So I start from the next line. Ma, you are letter A. The next line after the Honorable Commissioner sits. Sir, in blue shirts, you are letter B. I want it to continue that way. I know I can't pass the mic to you where you are, but let's pick the alphabets like that. Media team, please, are we on to, okay, so then let's continue. For those that will be in the A group, we are going to be talking about open science advocacy and capacity building, and that will be shared by Dr. Olajide Fasheki from Federal University, Ekiti. I'm getting signals, but I'm not sure it's from the media team. Okay. This B group is going to be open science policy. The C group is going to be open science practice. And the D group is going to be open science infrastructure. Please, let's pay attention to our alphabets. I'll be back shortly. Okay, it's good to be back. We are breaking into groups immediately. So we are going to have A here on my right, C at the back of A. We're going to be in small clusters, and D will be here. So, and the facilitators for The facilitator for the B group is Dr. Olumide Olugbemi from Afe Babalola University, Mr. Fashai JK, also from Afe Babalola University, and for the D group, we have Dr. Bashiru Adetomiwa from Redeemers University. So, once again, the A group is going to be here on the right. The C group will be behind the A group, and the D group will be here. I can see Mr. Fasha is already going around to talk to people on how these small cluster groups will be. And I promise you, the discussion is going to be educative, informative, and exhilarating. Thank you once again for staying